welcome to Kickback with Chris, Martial Arts Podcast. Hello and welcome to episode 4. Hope everybody's well. First things first, I'm going to get this out of the way now. I'm absolutely rammed full of cold, so apologies if I do sound different this week. My voice is just about hanging in there, but if you hear me coughing and spluttering, then do apologise. I will do my best to edit out any nastier noises, so to speak. So what we've got on this week, we're going to do things a little bit differently this week. Obviously the first week I was just trying things out, just trying to get a feel for the equipment and how all this podcasting stuff works. And the last 2 episodes have been focused around individual guests. So what I wanted to do this week was actually open it up, the phone line, so to speak, to lots of different people, from different backgrounds, different things to chat about. I've actually got a few different guests lined up. Now, to be 100% truthful with you, this first section now I am actually recording before speaking to the guests that we're going to have on, just basically as a little bit of an insurance thing, because I can feel my voice getting a little bit worse day in, day out, so I didn't want to wait until the end of the week and I have absolutely no voice left and not be able to put anything out on Friday. So I've recorded this a little bit earlier, just to be safe, so to speak. Things that have been going on for me personally and for the podcast this last week. What was really cool after episode 3 with our guest Chris Vera, chatting about all sorts of tricking and performance martial arts type of things, was the amount of nice comments and feedback I got from people. To say how, although it wasn't something that they had an interest in or something that they particularly knew a lot about, they enjoyed listening to the show, and that following that they went off and did a little bit of research themselves. And that's kind of exactly what I'm hoping to achieve on a larger scale over time with this podcast, sort of opening people up to new areas of martial arts, or perhaps things that they'd sort of pushed to one side as something that they felt wasn't for them, just so we can learn to understand each other a little bit more, the different areas of martial arts, and bring everybody together in a sort of a community spirit. At least that's what I'd love to achieve in an ideal world. I understand that it won't be quite as easy as that. Also for the podcast this last week, we've actually sort of semi-permanently settled in now with our hosts at SoundCloud. I've just actually taken out a full package agreement with them there now, so going forwards there are some costs involved, and I'm hoping that with support out there from people listening, we're going to be able to find ways to cover it. For the time being though, the podcast is actually being sponsored by my own business on the side, which is www.onlinekicking.co.uk. So if you're interested in picking up some new kick drills, some tips or hints on how to improve your kicking or balance or that sort of thing, if you head over there to onlinekicking.co.uk, I've got I think there's about 25 videos on there at the minute of various different things, working through different basics from your front kicks through to your jump spin hook kicks and everything else. So go check that out. Supporting that actually supports the podcast, so please do go take a look. If not, give it a share, that would be appreciated. In other news, I just wanted to give a quick shout out to somebody who a lot of people in the martial arts will know, Mr. Dave Turton, who has been quite unwell of recent, which had the great news that he's actually on the mend. He came down with a bout of pneumonia, which is anybody that's suffered with or knows anybody has will know it's particularly nasty. So big shout out to Dave. Hope you're feeling better, sir, and you're back on your feet and back to doing what you do best as soon as possible. So without any further ado, I think what we'll do is we'll open it up to our first guest, whoever it is. It's not lined up yet, and I'll catch you in a little bit, guys. Cheers. Okay, so live on the phone now, we have Lucci from the Kaizen Show. How are you doing, sir?
I'm very well, Chris. How are you?
I'm great, well, I say I'm great. I'm absolutely full of cold. But other than that, I can't complain. I'm a bit snotty and feeling sorry for myself. But no, all's good.
Keep going, mate. Keep going.
Yeah, so we're nearly there, nearly showtime.
It's, 2 weeks, just under. About 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks Saturday. This is the hard part now. The last 2 weeks, this is when everybody wants tickets and calling me up to see if they're able to teach a seminar. Crazy. Yeah.
All the last minute people have had a year.
all the last minute people have had. Yeah, we how long have we been on this? It's last November.
Yeah.
So we did the first Kaizen expo back in October the 21st.
Yeah.
In Nottingham. So I just thought this year I'll do a summer one. And well, if we get some, my fingers are really crossed. I'm looking at the skies now, Chris, and it's a bit dull here in Nottingham.
It's gonna be.
My fingers are crossed. Yeah,
nah, we've got the sunshine booked. It's gonna be sunny.
Yeah. So we've been plugging it since like November last year. So let's see in our last 2 weeks. I'm just finalising the actual timetable and the final lineups, and organising all the demos, and that's the fun part. But yeah. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I was there last year for the first one and thoroughly enjoyed the day, as did everybody that was there. And it was what was really nice to see was there was way more people actually there participating than watching. In fact, there were very, very few people watching at all. It was the vast majority of the people were there to train, which was really, really cool to see.
I know.
And there was so many different things to do. That's right. Yeah, there was so much different stuff to do as well. There was and all the different areas. They were all buzzing. So. Anybody cool lined up for this year? Anybody different from last year?
Once again, my friend, it's an amazing lineup, and absolutely, it's been deleted. Like you said, in back in October, word went round straight away. What a great event it was.
Yeah.
And purely because I think I had the right people there, and all the instructors, they taught with passion.
Yeah.
And hence the reason why a lot of them went over their time. But never mind.
No, it's all good.
We've got some amazing instructors. We've got some, the same lot as last October. Not all. Again, yourself, you're booked on, I believe, Chris.
I am, yes.
And you'll be there. Simon Oliver, Terry O'Neill, Eddie Quinn, Zara Fiveune.
Wow.
Russell Jarmus is on. Mr. Pillage, Tony Pillage is doing a seminar as well. I believe his seminar was the biggest we had last year. He had like nearly 70 plus on his seminar. Along with Russell and Scott Cardwell as well. So that was we're looking at big stuff again for next year as well. We're looking at big. Well, this year, should I say? We're looking at really like big field seminars as well with the lineup. But we've got a nunchucker group coming in.
Wow.
As well. We've got a lot of different. There's going to be some sword throwing, demonstrations as well. We've got the Aikido demonstrations, Jiu-Jitsu demonstrations, karate. We've got a kickboxer called Gordon Scott Russell coming from Scotland. Yeah, Mike Constantinus, if I pronounce that right, coming over from Holland. So yeah, man, people are travelling for this. We've got like a karate zones and jiu-jitsu zones. We've got Kevin Powell, 10th degree black belt Kevin Powell. We've got Tony Bailey, the general, coming along again. It's just amazing. It's going to be amazing.
So
the lineup there's too many to list. The amazing.
Yeah.
The lineup's going to be amazing. And the vendors, we've got some amazing, some amazing vendors as well. So if you are coming, guys, bring some money with you.
Yeah.
Because there's going to be, the one thing I like, what I liked about expos back in the old days is the fact that I can bring things home with me.
Yeah.
Like I'm able to go and spend money and, enjoy the whole day. It's not just about turning up and doing the seminars and meeting the instructors and having pictures and things like that. You want to be taking things home with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool stuff. And I believe that there's an extra twist to it this year in that it's part outdoors as well.
That's why I've got my fingers crossed. It's an outdoor event. It's an outdoor martial arts expo, which I believe is the very first the UK have had. But if it rains, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because we've got like big. You'll be covered. I don't want to say too much. I just want to surprise people.
So people need to get there to see what's what.
People need to get there and see. Yeah. For obvious reasons, we've got like the knife throwing and things like that outside. So it is outside, as I call it. There's sort of going to be a kids zone as well there as well. So there's a lot of kids doing some martial art tricks and nunchaka and things like that, and all good and fun and games for the kids as well.
So something for everybody. All the family can join in. Then that's cool.
It is. It's quite difficult when you're putting things like this on. You need to cater for physically and literally everybody. So you got to tick all boxes. I'm sure I've made a few mistakes again this time, but I'm still learning.
Hey, it's how we learn, isn't it? It's how we learn. I mean, if last year was as a first event, I can say from being there, it was fantastic, and I know a lot of other people shared that same view as well. So if you matched last year, then that's going to be fantastic, and I would imagine that this year will be even better still. So onwards and upwards. I'm really looking forward to it. Really looking forward to it.
That's all I can do is do a little bit better than last year. Let's see.
Yeah, fantastic.
Let's see. Summer event 2019's already been booked, so that's going to be a 2-day event.
Wow.
I think July the 6th and July the 7th. It's going to be a 2-day event.
Just writing that down.
I don't know if you've seen Mark Stas all over social media from Belgium. Mark Stas.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. He's confirmed.
Wow.
He's confirmed. We're going to be flying him over. And a few others I can't mention yet.
No,
we're also looking at a tournament as well. So there'll be some sort of tournament going off as well as the Exo. So, year by year, brick by brick, Rome wasn't built in a day. I've got a pretty bad habit of biting off more than can chew. And so that with Kaizen, I've really had to hold myself back and do it professional. But there's a lot of people who've helped me out on the way. And gave me some great advice and stopped me falling over.
Well, that's one thing I was going to say about what I felt last year. It was very much a community event. Obviously, it's your event and you're running it as organizer, but it did have that community vibe to it. Like everybody was digging in and helping out in their own way, and that's really nice. Really nice.
We raised some for charity as well. We raised some money for charity last year. You don't make no money with things like this, and when we do make the money, it goes to charity. And
fantastic.
This year there's going to be some donation boxes for a couple of charities as well, and one in particular to our friend Scott Cardwell, who we sadly lost this year, and we're going to raise some money for his memorial. And also, there's the main seminar area is named after Scott. Where we're gonna have a minute's applause for him just before we start the seminars, and Keith Priestley will be doing a kata in Scott's name, and the party will start with Russell Jarmacy opening that seminar area.
Oh, what better way? That's perfect.
Whatever he's going to do, and and I'm sure whatever he does, it's going to be amazing.
Absolutely, quality instructor, fantastic. So, where can people go to find out more information and to book tickets?
Just go to the Kaizen. I've never been a believer of websites. The Kaizen has still not got an official website. Yeah. Believe it or not. I'm very old school. So we have got a Facebook page, the Kaizen Martial Arts Expo on the Facebook. So I'll be honest with you, Chris, there's not that many tickets left.
Right, so people need to get a move on then.
It's been absolutely mental. It really has. A lot of tickets went for got donated for several charities. So that's nice as well.
Brilliant.
There'll be a few on the door, I reckon.
Okay.
I don't know yet. I don't know the final figures yet. I'm not sure. We've actually extended Kaizen because we sold out the first time, so I had to hire more space. It's a non-matted area, so it'll be perfect for karate guys in there. And it's that big, and there's a nice chill out area there as well, with a little stage, and people just want to relax and have a chill out. It's perfect for them there. The catering, we've got the catering all sorted. So even though there's a McDonald's and KFC across the road from the venue, you don't need to go there, people, because we've got fantastic caterers coming.
Yeah, I saw lots of people making use of that last year, and I brought a packet with me, but I won't be this year.
You won't need to. No, you won't. Honestly, you won't need to. Yeah, I think there's about 5 seminar areas this time.
Wow.
I'd say chill out areas, a demonstration area. Yeah, it's just I'm hoping to be a nice, good vibe, just like last time.
Brilliant.
Just like last year. Let's just see.
Fantastic. So, yep, anybody out there who's interested, get on Facebook, look up the Kaizen Martial Arts Expo on there. I'm sure many of you as well. If you do struggle, if you pop onto our Facebook group, and I'll pass the details on for you. In fact, what I'll do is I'll add the link in the show notes, and that way, if anybody wants to find out, they can just go straight onto the show notes and get direct to the right Facebook page. Thank you for your time, Lucia. It's been a pleasure to chat as always.
No problem at all. And I'll see you on the 16th.
Absolutely. No, I'll do my best not to injure myself between now and then.
You'll be fine. We've actually got a bigger area for you now, Chris. If I remember, there was actually people hanging off the seminar area. Your seminar where you do your big jumping kicks. So yeah, I've taken that into consideration this time.
Oh well, very much appreciated. I will do my best to promote it extra for you. Brilliant. All right. Well, thanks very much for your time. And anybody that is going to be there on the day, if you obviously come and find me, it'd be good to catch up as well. And I'll speak to you on the day as well, sir.
Talk to you soon. Thank you.
No worries. Thank you. Bye.
Later. Bye-bye.
Cool. Okay, so big thanks to Lucia for coming on today to tell us a little bit about the Kaizen event. I'm really looking forward to being there this year, as I've already mentioned. So hopefully you guys are going to be there too, joining in with all the massive variety of workshops that go on at the event. So yeah, get yourselves down. So coming up next, we have Paul Greeny, who is part of the awesome group Fighting for Autism. I'm sure some of you have seen my posts on Facebook before. Originally, I was going to chat a little bit about the group, but what I thought was it'd be better to get Paul on himself. So here we go. Okay, so joining us on the line now, we have Paul Greeny, who is the Head of Operations for Fighting for Autism Europe. I got that right, didn't I?
You did.
Fantastic. Now, as many listeners probably already know, those of you that have seen or followed me on Facebook, Fighting for Autism is a group that I've been supporting now for, I think about 2 years. That sounds right. It might be longer than 2 years. Time just seems to whiz by. And I was going to actually talk about the group a little bit myself, but I figured rather than do that, get the main man on yourself, and let you tell our audience a little bit about what it is that the group do and some of the things that people are involved with.
Right, where to start?
Where to start it in. How did you first get involved with the group? What was it that prompted you to get involved?
Well, what happened was around about 7 or 8 years ago, I just through social media, I got involved in a charity called I Help Out Worldwide, which was founded by Wayne McCulloch, who's a former WBC world champion boxer. Not heavyweight, sorry, but with regards to that, it was basically trying to build up links in both the boxing and martial arts communities to help kids and adults who might come from disadvantaged backgrounds. Mm-hmm. Then I started to look into like things a little bit further afield. My son is on the autistic spectrum, okay. And I've come across Fighting for Autism on Facebook. It must have been around about 4 years ago. Mm-hmm. The chap who founded it is a guy called Christian Mitchell, who's over in Australia. Yeah. Christian also has a son on the autistic spectrum. So I turned and said, well, look, can I help in any way? And it's just kind of gone from there. So like I was over in Europe, you've got Christian over in Australia, and then you've had Brian Higginbotham, who's another dad with an autistic son, who's over in the USA, and all three of us are the head of operations. So Brian looks after the USA, Christian looks after Australia, and I look after Europe. Yeah. So I kind of lucked out when it comes to the weather. They get the nice weather, I get the nasty weather, but there you go.
Yeah. And I believe I first came across yourself in the group. I think it was at actually one of Tony's events. It was at one of the Warriors Assemble events, I believe. And yeah, I remember seeing this and thinking, this is great. This is perfect for what I'm doing in my school, to bring in and to help promote. Over the sort of last year or two, it's kind of exploded, hasn't it? The amount of instructors that have got on board, it's been fantastic.
The most wonderful side of it is with regards to, particularly in Europe, like with regards to the UK, Northern Ireland and Ireland, like a lot of people have actually really, really, really got into the idea that like if you look into like with regards to the autistic spectrum. Yeah. like carters and forms, like you're looking at traditional like martial arts, they go hand in hand because like the sequences never change, the names don't change. So if you're on the autistic spectrum, you're quite used to routine and regime. These things go hand in hand, and I think the nicer side of things, where as far as martial arts and also the boxing communities who have actively got involved, is that they've really, really invested into it. Whereas we've gone through, like members of parliament, we've gone through a lot of other sports, and they've really not been as quick off the mark as martial arts. And the most amazing side of things is, particularly with regards to a lot of the clubs and the coaches, the positive stories that you hear coming forward. Oh yeah, well I've worked with a child with autism, or we've got a senior who's on the spectrum, and those kinds of things are those kinds of stories, or the inspiring events that actually go on. They're the ones who actually get the kids to actually go and shine through the spectrum themselves.
Yeah,
not only that, it also encourages the parents to actively get their kids involved. If you look through, for argument's sake, during the half terms, which we're in now where I live, and especially during like the summer holidays, when you turn around and you look at anything with regards to adaptive, so that's not just autism, that could be any kid with any kind of additional need, or any kind of, the word disability is a little bit out of date, because if you actually look at you look at so many people who have a difficulty, but they work their way around it. But when you actually look at clubs and things like geared towards them, or where they're actively included, they're very few and far between. So, like, particularly with the autistic spectrum, we've looked, like, for my son for years and years and years, and there's not really a lot of things forthcoming. Like, and a lot of the things are there, like the dates are here, there, and everywhere. They're not normally in the holiday periods. And not only that, it's the distance you need to travel to actually get to them. A lot of them aren't feasible. So with regards to a lot of the martial arts clubs, they've actually come forward and actually turned around and said, well, yeah, we can definitely do it. And that's kind of been, especially when you hear some of the inspiring stories of some of the youngsters that are actively involved in the clubs, and also when you hear like the coaches are so positive about it, and that's been part and parcel of the success, is that with regards to the clubs, the coaches, senseis, and the students, and even with regards to, like, we have fighter ambassadors, so these are like a lot of them are MMA fighters, or they may be boxers who are high-level athletes, and they've actually started to back a lot of the kids and adults as well, because autistic kids become autistic adults. So, you know, it kind of goes hand in hand, and the amount of knowledge that a lot of the coaches and the students actually have is, although you're actually prompting here every now and again, the knowledge base is already there. It's just we are actually there as Fighting for Autism. It's just to give a little bit of reassurance. No, you're on the right track.
Yep, absolutely. It's touching on a few of the things that you said there, especially. I mean, we've always, my club in Knaresborough, we've always tried to be as inclusive as possible. But what's been really nice about, especially with being involved with Fighting for Autism, is it's given us a means to promote it in a way that people can see, rather than it just being a Facebook post that says, you know, we involve children with additional needs. I mean, there's nothing, but whether you got a nice poster there and a name and a Facebook group that people can go to see, it just gives parents that sort of reassurance that it's not like, oh, it's just another person saying they do, but they don't really. And we've seen, we've actually now developed a reputation locally for the school to go to. And in all honesty, it's not taken that much change in the school. All we've done with the instructors really is just encourage them to think about what they say before they say it. And it's as simple as that. You know, perhaps consider, you know, if you know there's a student in there that isn't so keen on louder noises, if you know that there's a student that really does work off of routine, just try your best. It's not, as you'll know, it's not always possible to provide a 100% service, shall we say. There are going to be moments, but we've also found as well that because our students are used to these kids being in class that need that little bit extra help and support, when something does go a little bit wrong, none of them bat an eyelid. None of them, they're just like, that's cool, and they just carry on, you know.
I think more so with a lot of the younger kids, they're not, with regards to anything when it comes to disability or gender or anything like that. A lot of the bad habits are actually inherited. They're taught over time, especially like if you look at a lot of the young kids, then they're really non-judgmental. Even more so when you're actually on the spectrum yourself. It's like there's no hidden agenda. It's actually quite refreshing. It's either you are or you aren't. It's either it's very, very. There is no grey area there, and I think that, like, with regards to my son, it's one of the positive sides that you actually do see. Is you kind of know exactly where you stand. I think with regards to a lot of the clubs, and we have been so fortunate with the amount of youngsters that we've actually seen come through like Europe particularly.
Yeah.
And I think with also, if you're looking at the clubs as well, is if you are a parent who has a child on the spectrum, your child might go there and it might not be the right school for them. But if that child was still made to feel welcome in that club, you may well have one of the siblings that will actually go there, and that the child on the autistic spectrum might sit at the side of the mat and actually build up a bit of a bit of confidence and eventually venture into it. And I think, and also with the parents, it goes a really, really big way. Like with myself, I've actually, with regards to, I spoke to a karate instructor around about 3 years ago, and the first impression lasts. I actually went into quite a well-known gym. I started to speak about it, and immediately, the second I mentioned the word autism, he switched off. He said, "I'm not interested." And I went, okay, just out of interest, where is your club based? And when he turned around and said it, I turned and said, it's not a problem. I go, but I know a club just a little bit, not in the same village where you are, but a couple of villages down. And I know full well that club there actually does run an autism-friendly class. And the second I said that, the eyes lit up, and all of a sudden this person became interested.
Right.
And you're thinking, no, you're not in it for the right reasons. And that was the only one I've had one negative response out of all the coaches that I spoke to. The lion's share, if not all, have been really, really positive. How do we get involved? How do we get the kids involved? People majority of the junior ambassadors we've got in Europe, I know in the UK in particularly, the majority of them are actually on the spectrum themselves. And the ones who aren't on the spectrum themselves have a loved one or a friend who is on the spectrum. So there is actually an active, there's something that's actually there for them to actually get involved and really to prove the point and push for awareness, from the mats onwards. And it has been, especially within the last 2 years, particularly with Tony Pillage's, like with the Warriors Assemble Awards and the Fighting Spirit Awards, you actually do get to see, in my view, the real message of martial arts, which is where we are all one and everybody's included. And if it's a breath of fresh air, because it's the first event that I've ever been to where overcoming adversity is actually celebrated. I've been to quite a few like functions and events before, and I've not seen such like where the red carpet has been laid out and rightly so. I think you've sat there as well as I have at one of the events, and when you see a lot of these kids come forward and actually tell their story. A lot of them, it makes no difference whether you're the smallest person or the biggest person in the room. If you don't have tears rolling down your face, or your hands are aching from where you're clapping so much, then you need to really check and see if there's a pulse there. And it is, and I think those are the kind of things that they're gold dust. They're the kind of things that those are the ones that are really going to push the next generation, not just martial artists, but you're also looking at instructors and clubs, and with regards to pretty much everybody, where everybody's welcome, irrelevant of what your difference may be.
Absolutely.
And I think that's my side.
Yeah, I think what it is for a lot of instructors, if they're honest, is it's fear. It's fear of the unknown, and unfortunately, at times, the press and the media don't help. Because they with all things, they have a habit of sort of exaggerating things a little bit. And the thing with it is like I said earlier, there are going to be some days where things don't go to plan. But for me, the most rewarding thing is seeing the kids, they go through that rough patch, and then they have that sort of moment of feeling part of a group when the other kids are supporting them, when the instructors are supporting them. But something that I think some coaches don't fully understand is it's the parents sat out in the waiting room, because they've had this experience every day of worrying if something's going to happen, and when they get that first moment of seeing their child being supported and an instructor and the other students being understanding and being told, no, it's okay, don't worry, it's fine, it's okay, it's for them. That's one of the things that we've been told by parents is, they actually look forward to coming to class with their child because they know that everybody's accepting, that it's okay. So I encourage all instructors out there, if you're a little bit unsure, even if you're a little bit scared, get in touch with the group. You've got a Facebook group, obviously. There's the website, and go and fill your brain with knowledge, and get involved.
The nice side of things is with regards to the knowledge base, and I think with especially particularly from a gentleman's perspective, because with regards to the young ladies, they are very, very in sync. They'll actually talk, whereas the guys are not necessarily as forthcoming about talking about it. And I think with regards to the Facebook groups, with regards to social media, it makes it a lot easier to access the information. Not only that, is have someone to speak to. And I've been quite fortunate in a way, because I've actually got to speak to quite a few people over the years, particularly like the guys as well, and actually get them to share their stories. And like I said, you've got so many people who are involved in martial arts and in the boxing communities as well, who know somebody's on the autistic spectrum. They may well have someone in their family who's on the spectrum themselves, and it's a sense of belonging. It's like, well, hang on a minute, it's not really, if you were to go into a pub, it's like not normally the topic of conversation. Whereas social media, you can pick it up and put it down whenever you want, and the amount of people have actually come forward and actually discussed it. How do I get involved? With regards to we've got, like, with regards to the fighter ambassadors, and with the juniors, and also with the coaches, we've got Voices for the Voiceless, which, if the parents want to get involved into it, because everybody has a part to play. And like you've turned around and said, it is a sense of belonging. And I think with a lot of parents who have any kid with any additional need,
absolutely,
that is one of the biggest hurdles, because one of the things that you're worried about is someone going to love my child as much, or someone going to give them as much attention, or is someone going to look after them as well as I can? And like literally, particularly when you go into a martial arts club, you think, oh, they're going to get thrown here, there, and everywhere. They're going to get, and it's not necessarily that. It's with regards to one of the first clubs we actually worked with was Immortal 365, and I know Pete Holmes, Steve Lloyd, Carl Butcher, Dan Lister, and everybody there is absolutely wonderful. And we actually took one of the junior ambassadors there. Her brother is actually on the spectrum, and there was a young lad who was going up for one of his belts in Taekwondo, I believe, and she became a study buddy. And what it was is she actually, all she did was just go over, reassure this young lad that okay, what you're doing is okay. Took out a little bit of time so it didn't detract the rest of the class. So he was like, and we were, again, we had one of the Bellator, he was light heavyweight champion, Liam McGeary, came over, and Liam actually gave us, I think, an afternoon of his time, and he actually came down, and he actually watched these two kids perform a kata and go through the forms. And he actually was given a little bit of praise and recognition. There was an MMA class on at the same time, so he was asked to sign like gloves and T-shirts and whatnot. But by that person actually going in there and actually giving these kids literally just a nudge to turn around and say, yeah, you're onto a winner there, and give them just that little bit of confidence. And from there, that's where you actually see, or you actually get to see where everything clicks in and it steps up a gear.
Yeah, it's so true.
I know that over in the States, Brian, who's my counterpart over there, he's actively worked with regards to with the adaptive community to actually be able to allow them to compete. And it wasn't so much where, like, particularly in mixed martial arts, where a lot of people look at the UFC or Bellator, and then when you look at somebody who has an additional need, and you think, well, no, they shouldn't be competing. If it's tailored so their safety and their integrity is paramount at all times.
Yeah.
Why not? But you have to look at the way that it's actually done. We had a young lad called Garrett Holev who's over there, and I've known Garrett and his dad Mitch for around about 7 or 8 years, and they are really, really wonderful people. And one of the things with Garrett was he was always had the door closed in where it comes to competing. Brian, who actually worked very, very closely with the sanctioning committee over in Missouri State over in the US, and they worked together and they actually put together an event where he could compete. And basically it was where the rules and everything were adapted, the referee and everything was actually informed of what was going on. And you had 2 lads who were allowed to compete. Garrett has Down syndrome, and you had the other lad, who's David Stefan, is a Paralympian with cerebral palsy. They were never put at risk, but they got allowed to compete and actually show the world what they can do. Yep. Garrett, on the first event, actually won. And from what his dad told me, he actually got his own special belt, a Fighting for Autism belt.
Amazing.
And it took him days to take it off. That's what it's about.
Absolutely.
Garrett's actually gone from strength to strength. Garrett has gone not just from the MMA side. And this guy trains. He's actually been over to the UK. I believe he was in the advert for the last Paralympics, where he's the MMA fighter who comes forward. And his dad is a wonderful, wonderful man. And the way that Garrett learns, or the way that Garrett was actually going, he went to an MMA club in central London, and he was actually watching over. His dad recorded what he'd actually done on the phone. It was done with, instead of him learning 5 different moves or manoeuvres, he only learned 3. But they recorded it, and he went over it over again and again and again on his tablet. And I'm thinking, this is exactly the same way that my son learns. Right. It's like repetition, and you can actually see him going through the motions. Garrett's gone on to actually work with the fitness community over in the US with adaptive fitness,
brilliant,
like CrossFit and things like that. And he's also, the most wonderful side of it is he's actually coaching other youngsters with Downs and additional needs now.
Perfect.
He's just a wonderful, and he's one of the shining beacons. And when you see things like that, you can't help but want to get involved. And I think that's why everybody who's involved with Fighting for Autism has become so passionate about it, because you're thinking, this is just amazing to watch.
Well, I think everybody listening will be in agreement with me that we can all hear the passion in your voice about this one. And I just wanted to say thank you for your time, for coming on and sharing this with our audience. And hopefully it'll prompt some people to, even if they just go and take a little bit more of a look into it on the internet, that's a positive first step. So what I will do is I will include all the relevant links in the show notes. So if it's people listening in, if you take a look there, I'll put some direct links in there so you can go and have a good read through. But yeah, thank you again for your time, sir. And yes, I'm sure everybody's really, really enjoyed listening to that. Thank you.
Thanks ever so much for having me, Chris. Thank you ever so much. Take care now.
So thanks to Paul for his time today, coming on to talk about Fighting for Autism. A fantastic group, and if you're the school owner out there, or indeed a parent or somebody wanting to learn a little bit more about the group, I do encourage you to go out and check out what it is that they're doing, because it's fantastic work. So next we have Jamie Clubb, who is coming on today to talk about a new book that he's got releasing soon. A bit of a challenging one to get everybody thinking. So without any further ado, I'll hand it over to Jamie. Okay, so joining us on the line now, we have Jamie Clubb, who is here today to talk to us, I believe, about a new book that you've got released.
Yeah, that's right, Chris. Wrong Fu is now available. It's an ebook, and it's a prequel to a series of ebooks that will be made up into one large omnibus edition, I think, in the future, looking at critical thinking in the martial arts.
Wow. Okay, good challenging topic then.
Yeah, definitely. There's no doubt about that. I came into it in about 2005, which is when I first started writing quite critically about martial arts, and it was because I was very much within the what I'd call the self-protection circles, or maybe even the reality-based self-defense circles. Okay. And yeah, there were some great people there. But I always thought that was that was going to be the place where all the reality was, where you're going to get all the proper skepticism, the proper critical thinking, and essentially I thought, they were, for want of a better word, the good guys. I mean, I don't mean to say as in no one else was good, but they were the most switched on in with reality world. But I quickly discovered, although there were some fantastic people there, and they certainly were some really, really good guys, and they're influential to me to this day, for want of a better word again, tribe of reality-based self-defense was just as deluded as any other tribe in the martial arts subculture. They suffered from the same problems that the other tribes were, and so I started to look at the whole martial arts subculture as an entirety, and I saw similar patterns being repeated, but just in different forms in different groups.
Wow, good. So some in-depth research done there. Then that's great. So I was just having a quick read up on your website actually before I came on. I know I said I was going to go it's completely blind, but I wanted to have a little bit of information to hand before coming on, and it's really good. I love to see this sort of thing, challenging ideas. And even for those people out there that, well, you know what martial arts is like. Some people can be very, very set in a lot of people can be very set in their ways. But I love content like this myself because even if you are of a firm belief, you're sitting on one side of the fence or the other quite clearly, challenging those ideas and even taking the time to understand why other people think a certain way is always a good thing, I found.
Definitely.
Anyway.
Definitely.
So as well, for those people out there listening to this now that perhaps don't know an awful lot about you just yet, I obviously do because I've met you before, been at events with you, and I've known you for I don't know how many years now. It's probably longer than I'd care to think. But just I wondered if you could just touch a little bit on your background, your history and training, and because I know it's quite extensive.
Yeah, it's quite varied, is what I'd say.
Yeah.
I grew up on a travelling circus, and I will say that definitely has an influence over the way that I teach and train as well, because I've always had that kind of travelling mentality, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I was based, and still am now, in the Cotswolds, which is quite a place that's alienated from the martial arts world. There's not many good martial arts schools around this area, and certainly they're always the last to know about it, shall we say. It's right in the middle of the countryside. But of course I was with the Circus Contact as well, so I travelled all over the country too. But what it meant was that there was no real good regular close schools to me, so I did do a lot of travelling. As soon as I got my driving licence, was old enough to get my driving licence, I started travelling all over the country. Obviously prior to that I just trained in whatever I could go to, and I started off in a style called Cicado, which I think is virtually extinct now. There is a school of Cicado, but I was informed that it's not the same as what I trained in back there. What they did, it was like a branch off from the UKTA, the old United Kingdom Taekwondo Association. And it was a bit of a merger of kickboxing and taekwondo under Peter Baines.
Okay.
And it was in Combat Magazine. That's how I found out about it. See, I was a martial arts fan long before I was a martial arts student. And when I mean a fan, I don't mean just getting into the movies. I started off, I think, with at the tail end of the whole ninja boom thing, I loved the idea of ninjutsu and all that sort of thing. And then I got into and that's what I wanted to do to begin with. Of course, there was no ninjutsu schools, but where I was based at all. But I still ended up making long track journeys to Nottingham and things like that, which was a long way for me at that age, about 13 years old. Then couldn't do it on a regular basis. So I settled for what was the nearest school, and of course Cicado immediately appealed to my the fact that it was different. I think that's probably the thing that appealed to me then. It was a regular school. It was in Shipston, which is about 10-15 minutes down the road from me. So I stayed with that until I got to first degree black belt, but I actually got my first degree black belt 2 weeks after my local school closed down. So that was it, and I had nowhere else to go. So I then moved into Taekwondo, and that's really probably when I first started to observe, although I got some good things out of my time with the TAGB, I also saw a lot of the problems that I've encountered in that I write about in my Wrong Fu book. Not only just the appeals to tradition, but a lot of the commercialization, how it affects sometimes the way that classes are run and taught, and just a lot of different things that I would see later on. Then I moved on into kickboxing. And ended up teaching that for about 4.5 years under the same guy who, funnily enough, was one of Scott. Do you know of a movie star called Scott Adkins?
Who doesn't?
Yeah, okay. Well, I knew Scott before he was famous. Yeah, that's pretty cool. No, Scott auditioned for a martial arts act that I was going to be putting on. It was an act that became part of a pro wrestling show. And my teacher at the time, rather unscrupulous individual, but he's provided me with a huge amount of information. Yes, absolutely. I learned the real dark side of martial arts when I was doing kickboxing. There's no doubt about it. That's a story in its own right. Yeah. And I think that probably it must have started sowing the seeds of skepticism in my mind in some shape or form, even though I didn't know it was doing that, if you know what I mean.
I get you.
I started seeing the whole sort of thing where, it's all about getting the memberships. It's all about selling the kit. It's all about all that kind of thing, and less about providing a good service, and less about the passion of the martial arts. Having said that, it was full contact. I got proper exposure to full contact. I experienced my first leg kicks when I was training there, because it was it was European kickboxing, so they allowed low kicks, and a bit of Muay Thai as well, which I loved, which was part of the training. But most of it, again, was just exposing me to the sort of the corruption in the martial arts world. Anyway, I auditioned. I was auditioning people to do a martial arts performance because my circus background, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to do a martial arts act, like a sort of a cabaret act or a circus act or performance art or something like that. It was quite an unusual concept I had for it. One of the people who auditioned was Scott Adkins, and rather than ending up being in my act, of course, he was swiped straight away by my teacher at the time, who thought, great, I want to get involved in movies. He's already started doing some stuff with movies, and so they were involved around about then. It was the same time. He also had in his books a thing called a company they ended up calling Xeon Enterprises, and my future brother-in-law was actually his partner in that, and long story, but essentially, I met Scott in his early days back in the 2000s, and I met him again when it was premiere of Undisputed 3, and he was just the same guy. That was what's wonderful about him. He obviously background, wonderful, down to earth bloke. If anyone's ever met Scott, you don't get a kind of like sort of like such a sort of salt of the earth individual in terms of how he's so unaffected by the work that he does. So so that was that was part of my bringing up in the martial arts world. After that. After kickboxing, I did a bit of cross training because I was teaching all over the country. At 19 years old, I was driving over to Brighton from the Cotswolds. I taught up at Chesterfield. I taught in Luton. I had a regular class in Luton for about 4 years. So I was driving all over the country. Again, a lot of experience in terms of what it's like, running clubs, so to speak, and also what was going on there. But of course, when there were martial arts classes nearby, I would make the time up and go and train there. So I did a bit of training with Peter Lewis in Screamer over in Worcester. Right. For a short period, and then I got involved with Wushu over in Bristol under Neil Genge for on and off for about 5 years, and that exposed me to traditional Chinese martial arts and modern Chinese martial arts as well. Again, that was all orientated towards my performance stuff, but then somewhere in the back of my head I thought, well, part of the reason why I got into martial arts was because I wanted something that was an effective form of fighting, an effective form of self-protection. So I was always a big fan of Jeff Thompson's work, and I always knew that a lot of the stuff that he was saying was very evident, very evidently true about the martial arts world. And after about 11 years of just been aware of Jeff's stuff and writing to Jeff as well and things like that, I finally summed up the courage. And when I moved to Kenilworth near Coventry with my partner, I jumped on the opportunity to try and train with some of his guys, and Jeff wasn't teaching at the time. He put me in contact with Matty Evans. I did a load of private lessons from Matty Evans. Got to meet Jeff. Jeff ended up inviting me to a little private training group he used to do at 6 o'clock in the morning later on, and he also, bless him, and a fabulous support for me. I mean, he got me into Martial Arts Illustrated for about 6 years, which then exposed me to all these different other martial artists. And what I did then is I just said that anytime I wanted to interview somebody or someone wanted me to interview them, and provided I liked what they did, I'd say, okay, I'll interview you, but I have to train with you as well to get the right experience. So I got to cross train. Got to expand with my writing, got to write rather than the normal, the normal martial arts interview that ends with, what colour, what's your favourite car and what's your favourite colour. And I never wanted that kind of one. So I wanted to get the experience to train with them and write the arts for them. And that's what exposed me to so many different martial artists. Did a documentary in 2005, 2006 called Cross Training the Martial Arts, where I had an idea to bring all these different teachers I'd interviewed together and look at cross training. And again, that's very much in line with my philosophy in teaching martial arts cross training. I trained in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu from 2004 to really to 2011 on that, but obviously I'm still training it on and off now, and I teach it as part of not specifically for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but I teach submission grappling as part of my criteria and services that I offer. Did Muay Thai intensively under Tony Hayes, RIP. Back in 2004 to 2003 to about 2005. Again, great experience there. And again, then there's all the other people who I trust, cross trained and worked with. Sure. And of course, one of the best coaches I worked with was Mo Teague, who I found out through Jeff as well. And also, again, he also pushed me a lot in the critical thinking way that I look at in martial arts. So that's a very rough overview of the sort of my martial arts background, but it's quite varied.
Yeah, well, that's the reason I asked was obviously I did know to a certain extent your history, and which is why it's good for people to understand that before they go into reading or looking into reading the book, because it gives people a better understanding of where you're coming from. It's not just ideas you've just pulled out of the air. This is from experience.
Yeah.
So yeah,
thank you.
Excellent.
Yeah,
stuff.
no. Yeah, but as I said, it ended up becoming an observation of the subculture. So, and I try to think. I mean, the book is there's plenty of works out there with martial artists saying, well, this is what everyone else is doing wrong, and the work looks introspectively as well. These are still there's the last essay in the first book, and it's against a prequel to a series that's which is going to be multi-volume series. It's called Bullshit Sue and the Fight to Make Martial Arts Work. But the wrong Sue, yeah, exactly. Which is half the reason that was because it's mildly offensive and it's going to make people chuckle, I think, when they see it. So hopefully they'll want to read inside it. But it's more of a look to say, look, there is something fundamentally wrong in some of the stuff that we're doing that we might not even be aware of. And yes, we can change that. And no, I'm not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. I'm still making these mistakes now. Just because as human beings, we're all irrational, and we're naturally irrational. So we do make mistakes, but again, a lot of times to be able to admit to it and say, that was an error, and this is the truth of the matter, and or this is what the evidence supports, and to move forward. And I think, more critical thinking martial arts would definitely be a step forward. But what I think our biggest problem again is this sort of tribalism, that goes on, which again is very, very natural. But I don't know if you noticed it in events, like events that you and I have attended, where you'll see a group turn up, a school turn up, and you think they turn up there and there are loads of martial arts available for them to train in, free of charge, right? Yeah. Often, so you often that's a normal standard thing. There's hour-long workshops, and there's systems from all over the place, and people travelling from all over the world to teach them. The opportunity for just the price of a ticket is fabulous. They could expose themselves, but how many of them actually go across and training in all those different workshops?
Yeah.
They just don't do it. What they'd rather do is stand on their stand and with the people they know, go to their tribe and criticise everybody else. That's often the thing. And exactly. And or also I noticed that when I was on stands, when I was selling the cross training martial arts DVD back at Seni, and I used to notice that people would come and talk to me, and they'd talk to me for ages about their theory on martial arts, and I would be sat there and I'll go, okay, so why are you here? You've come on my stand to come and get something. And it was interesting, like the first 5 minutes or so, but it'd been mainly about why they think Bruce Lee's brilliant, or why they thought this sort of thing like that. And I'm going, there's places for you to train all around here, and there's things for you to get, and there's stuff like that, but you'd rather just stand here and just tell me about it. And I think, and Rick Young once said it at a seminar. I mean, not that I'm a regular student of Rick Young, but Rick was one of the people featured in the documentary, and it always stuck with me. I went to a seminar of his where he said, people come and at the time, correct me if I'm wrong on this one, but at the time he was charging £100 an hour private tuition in Edinburgh. So someone would travel all over there to train with him, because obviously he's got his instructorship under Dan and Santoni, huge amount of experience. So the first half an hour, I've got somebody there telling me about what they've done. That hour they're paying for that, and this is often the issue. It's the willingness just to go there and just to have a look at it all and that. So and again, and often I feel like that's it's tribalism. People are just they want that identification. They want that rather than to say, well, I'll go in there, it's completely empty, experience it, and then go back and maybe critically look at it. But by all means, we need to have that critical thinking engaged. But at the same time, in order to have that critical thinking engaged, you have to have an open mind, which seems like a contradiction to most people. But I think it actually is the most open-minded way, because you can't critically analyse something properly if you don't have a appreciation or understanding of it.
So, for listeners out there, where is the best place for them to go to find out more about yourself and your upcoming publications, and indeed your previous ones too?
All right, lovely. Well, probably the first point of call would be my website, which is clubchimera.com. So it doesn't sound, it's of the English tongue, shall we say, it's not phonetically very good. Okay, club, which is my name, which is CLUBB. Yep. A chimera, which is spelled using the Greek way, because it's a Greek word, which is CHIMERA. So that's club with two B's, chimera with a CH.com. So clubchimera.com. And really, that's probably the best main source, and then the links there will go to my publisher and to get the books. Yeah.
Well, what I will do for anybody out there that's struggling with that one is I will include the links in the show notes, so you'll be able to go there and then obviously get straight through and get in touch with Jamie and have a look around the website and hopefully do some good reading. Well, thank you very much. No, thanks for your time. It's been great to chat, and I wish you all the best with the release and everything. And I'll perhaps go. I don't know. I won't. Perhaps I will. I'm going to go and check it out myself, actually. So again, thanks for your time, and I'll speak to you soon.
Thanks a lot, Chris, and thanks for all the great work you're doing with the new podcast. Excellent stuff.
Thanks for the feedback. Cheers. So a big thank you to Jamie for his time today, coming on to talk about his new book. Sounds like an interesting one. One for everybody, as I say. Get out there, challenge your thinking. It's really, really important in what we do. It's very, very easy for us to get stuck in one way of thinking, and not to push our own boundaries we place on ourselves. So yeah, regardless of which side of your fence you're sitting on, it's probably going to be a good one for us all just to take in and have a good think on things. So head over to his website. As I say, the details will be in the show notes. I've not read it myself yet, but I am going to go over there and check it out. So yeah. Thanks again to Jamie, and now we're going to go on to our final interview of the day with the fabulous Anthony Pillage. Okay, so joining me on the line now, we have the legend, the martial arts royalty and radio royalty himself, Mr. Anthony Pillage. How are you doing, sir?
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening.
All of the above. That's the thing.
Just in case, well, you don't know when people are going to listen, do you?
Absolutely.
So it's good to be inclusive.
So, just so everybody understands out there that's listening in, usually what I do with podcast guests is I will have obviously in the case of Tony, I already know him, but if I don't know them, I'll do a little bit of research and I'll have some questions prepped. Today, though, we're just going in as is. I've not got anything prepped, so we're just going to chat.
Oh, I like that. That's a good thing.
It was your suggestion, to be fair, so
I know.
I'm just going to run with it, see what happens.
You're just a wonderful facilitator.
I've been called worse.
How's it going, Chris? How are the podcasts going?
Really well, actually. I didn't know what to expect. It's something that I'd wanted to kind of do for a while, and I suppose I was getting in my own way. I was creating excuses as to why not to do it.
Of course.
And I just thought, you know what, I'm just going to do it. So I started doing it, got some nice feedback, and then I've just kept going with it. And we've just actually yesterday got sort of like a semi-permanent home now. I've committed some funds to it. And we very nicely had some people offer to chip in and help out a little bit as well, so that's great.
Oh, brilliant.
So we'll see if I'm still doing it in 6 months' time or it's driven me mad. But,
Well, I'll tell you what, the reason I was saying that was, if you look at Mick Tully, who strangely me and Russ ran into today, and Ant McGinley, they set up Tully's podcast about, 18 months ago. And it's sort of done pretty well for them. But I'm sure if you were to contact them with any sort of advice, they're two good mates of mine. I'm sure they would help you, because they got it up into some quite high numbers on the Apple iTunes podcasts.
Actually, Mick was actually the first person I contacted when I decided.
Oh, okay, brilliant.
Yeah, when I decided to do this, because I've known Mick for a while, and out of respect for what he does, as well as knowing that he's a great person, I contacted him first just to say, look, this is what I'm thinking about doing. I wanted to let you know first, and very gracefully he gave me loads of advice, put me on to different people, and anybody that's listening now that's not checked out Mick's podcast, I highly suggest you do. It's great content. Mick's a great guy as well, and anybody that knows Mick, well, they know what he's like. So it's really great content.
Leave it at that, shall we?
Yeah. His acceptance speech at the last awards.
Yes. He does like a bit of the Tully Road show, to be fair, but he's a good guy. When I was very poorly, he dropped me around a Viennetta one night, because I wanted a Viennetta. It was anything I fancied eating, and he dropped one round. So friendship like that, mate, you don't ever knock.
No, not at all. Not at all. So I think normally at this point I would say, okay, so for those people that don't know, whoever the guest is, tell us a little bit about yourself. But I don't think there's anybody really out there in the martial arts community that doesn't know who you are for one reason or another. But let's say there is somebody that doesn't know Tony Pillage.
Okay.
How would you describe yourself?
Awesome.
I would agree with that.
I came into martial arts very late. I was very fortunate to find the path. It was by fluke, to be honest. I wasn't particularly talented. I enjoyed doing the training, but that came about after I had a deep vein thrombosis. I decided to change my life, and then I sort of just fell into it, and the rest is history. So obviously, a lot of people know me through doing the pressure point stuff, which we sort of opened up some doors and took away some of the BS from it, I think. I look back, obviously I don't do too much now because of the cancer, but on the other side of the fence, I was talking to someone the other day, and it was actually someone who was having a bit of a pop at me, to be honest, on Facebook. And so I basically listed out all the achievements, the downgrade, where they came from, headlining shows, being on hoardings around London, being on the front cover of magazines, etc., etc. And it actually was quite interesting, because I look back and I think, well, in what is basically 16 years, we've achieved an incredible amount. And me and Russ were talking earlier about when you leave the world, you want to leave it in a slightly better place than when you found it. And I think, certainly I look at the students that we've had through the doors, how we've changed people's lives. That's a wonderful thing. But if I went and did a show, say like Seni or T-Max or Kaizen, I may well in the past have had, I don't know, maybe over a weekend, 50, 60 people say, oh, we have an autograph or a photograph, which is really lovely. And you think, why the hell does anyone want my autograph? But, they do. And since the cancer, I might get 200 people coming up. 200 people and saying, my wife's got cancer, my mum's had cancer, my sister's got cancer, I've got cancer. But through my sort of way I've dealt with it, it's given people a lot of inspiration and hope. And that to me is the legacy we've left. Yeah. That if we can change one people's life, especially where this horrible disease is concerned, then we've led a life which is worth living, in my opinion. So martial artist, cancer, ruggedly handsome, do a radio show on Hills FM, author, and just a damn nice bloke. Oh, and crocodile wrestling, of course.
Crocodile wrestling.
Yeah.
Oh.
I saw it on a business card once that someone gave me, and I thought, that's just the coolest thing ever. So I've had that on the business cards. Damsels rescued, crocodiles wrestled.
And
wrestled.
for any of the doubters out there, especially whoever this person was that was questioning you on Facebook, I've let Tony poke me before, and it hurt.
Oh,
so.
Yes, well, that's another story. And what we did that day is a story we should just keep to ourselves.
It'll stay between us forevermore. Absolutely.
I think it should.
Also, I'd love to touch a little bit on the awards that you run, because I've been to both the two different awards, and I myself, and I know other people have said the same thing. What a positive influence it's had on us. I was actually talking to Paul yesterday from Fighting for Autism, who I met through your event, who I now work with regularly now to support his group Fighting for Autism. But yeah, I just wondered
lovely man, absolutely lovely man.
He is. I just wondered if you could share a little bit about the events and what inspired you to bring them about.
I have been to many award ceremonies over the years. The most recent before ours were probably the MAI ones, which I think pretty much everybody and their cats have been to at some stage. I went to the last one, and it was strangely the day after I'd had a stroke.
Wow.
And I was there on a walking stick. I didn't realise I had a stroke. I then realised that because obviously the cancer, I've only got one lung, everything that's gone on, I am disabled now. And I've got no problem with that at all. But I was thinking, with all these dinners, there is a huge community of disabled martial artists out there. And for what would be easy for us, they're doing this week in, week out, to the best of their ability. And I've realised there's some wonderful people out there. I mean, there's just this plethora of really good people, but they don't get recognised. And I thought, wouldn't it be lovely to have a dinner that actually celebrated, and we don't call it disabled, we call it enabled martial artists. So it started off 3 years ago. The first one was extraordinary, and we got so much positive feedback from it. It was ridiculous. And I think the thing is, Chris, people would look at that and they would come along, and I'll give you a perfect example. A friend of mine now has been in a wheelchair for years, and he's a sixth dan in Chinese martial arts. I can't remember which style. And he was wheeled out, he got his award, and he started crying. And he turned around and he said, look, all my life, no one's ever wanted to listen to my story. They just see an old man in a wheelchair. Whereas tonight, people want to listen, and the stories and the bravery and the courage of these people has been unbelievable. And it's the most motivating night of the year for me. And through it, I've met some incredible people. Now, I spoke to Bob and Paul of MAI's fame a while ago, and I said, with the awards dinners, I mean, they're all well and good, but the reality is the awards do not mean anything. I said, have you thought about actually putting it out to the public and having different categories? So if someone wins, say, the best DVD of the year or the best seminar of the year or what have you, it's amazing because it's the general public who have actually done this. And that award then can help people. Say you won the best online platform, you can put that on your website, on your literature, and it gives people, a really good feel of what you guys are doing. And so we decided, right, we're going to actually run an award ceremony based around that and make it that level of integrity. Well, the first one was just extraordinary, and people just really appreciated what they'd won, and it was the public. And although it did bring out the worst in some people trying to vote for themselves, and all sorts, no, I'm really not joking. But what happened was, over we've done 6 awards, 3 disabled, 3 enabled, if you like, and then we've done the 3 British Martial Arts Awards. It's very quickly become one of the major evenings in British martial arts.
Yeah.
We were getting phone calls a month before the last one saying, "Can we come?" I said, "Well, who are you with?" "Oh no, we just heard it's a really cool event. We'd like to be there."
Yeah.
So we've had some legendary martial arts there. The last one, as you know, we had Brian Jacks, the judoka who was obviously so wonderful in Superstars back in the 70s, which I remember. And what a lovely man. And again, every single dinner we've had, there's been a wonderful story attached to it. People have done lovely things to each other. And as you say, you met Paulie there.
Yep.
What has happened categorically is there has been this quantum entanglement of people who have met at the dinners and who've become friends, and they're now working together. I could give you probably 30 instances where this has happened, and it's been completely organic. It's not been forced. It's just been a wonderful experience for people. And I don't know how long I've got left, Chris. No one does. But after the last one, I felt so pleased and so proud of what we created, because for 7 days afterwards, social media was still full of photographs and people doing videos and explaining how it meant to them and what it meant to them, and it will carry on. When I've gone, it will carry on, and it will grow, and it will be still a beautiful thing. But it's done with integrity, it's done with love, it's done with honesty, and most importantly for me, as you know, and I've got Russ sitting here now. One of our dear friends died earlier on this year, Scott Caldwell. And of course, it was always going to be very sad with Scott not being there. But on that same coin, Scott was a fairly contentious person, and deliberately, and that was his path. But a lot of people, because he lived on the Isle of Man, would not have had the pleasure of his company. The dinners did that. Yeah. They allowed people to meet him, and everyone was shocked. This person, the cage devil, and all you see is this madman with his weird glasses on, with this big beaming smile, with his arms wide open, hugging people and taking a genuine interest in who they were, and sticking up for the underdog, and stirring up. And that's what Russ and him did. And I think British martial arts should always be grateful to the pair of them for actually making that. And I would say categorically, from my own point of view, I was perhaps in a slightly different world from these guys. But as soon as I saw and I started to understand what they were trying to do, I threw my cards in with them straight away, because one thing that I do appreciate more than anything is honesty. Yeah. And there are so many fakes and liars and charlatans and false prophets in British martial arts as to be ridiculous. I look what Russ has actually achieved with his Mean Streets, and that's why he won so many awards this year, because in a year he's got 35 coaches under him. And these guys, mate, I know quite a few of them, and they're really good people. But the standards are extraordinary. And I will say this in front of Russ, and I've never actually said this before, but I watched some of their training. I watched the videos. I know the people, and they are talented performers. I probably, had it not been for the illness, I probably would have given up teaching for a year and gone up to train with Russ, so I could pass on the proper stuff to my students. Now, I can say truthfully that we've been going for since the 3rd of the 3rd of the 3rd. So it's a few years. We've had 11 students attacked in that time. And I'm not talking about a pub scuffle. I'm talking about an aggravated burglary, a carjacking, a knife attack, 3 people jumping someone outside of a nightclub. All of our students have walked away unscathed. So we've been on the right path, but I see huge gaps. And if I can see huge gaps, and I'm supposed to be sort of fairly well known within the thing, if other people, I see some of the absolute dross that's being taught these days, and it's abhorrent. And Russ and Scott had opened up the doors to people to look at it from a different way, and it was genius. It was absolutely genius, and it was proper. And all of a sudden, there is a new level of genuine teaching to people, to deal with people with in a violent situation. And I was sold the first time I saw it, and I've been around long enough not to sort of fall for scams and fakers, but this is the real deal.
Yeah.
So that's one of the great things that I think can happen from the dinners. And also, I mean, you know yourself, isn't it lovely to go to a place where you recognise so many good people?
Yeah.
And, you know, when Terry O'Neill was up there, which was the 2 ago, I was actually like a child. That's Terry O'Neill. That's the legend that is Terry O'Neill. And, you know, I've met people like Hoyce Gracie and Chuck Liddell and all these wonderful people. But I never had that, oh, my God, moment with any of them, apart from Terry. And he came up to me afterwards and he said, in his sort of Liverpudlian accent, I mean, this is a guy who was Arnold Schwarzenegger's stuntman, basically, still doing the Doors in his 70s up in Liverpool. And a legend. There is, you know, don't ever call me a legend, mate. More like legend. Terry O'Neill is a legend. And he comes up to me and he said, I don't want to give you any shit, he said, but this is the best martial arts event I've ever been to. And I said, well, that's really kind and very sweeping. And he said, no. He said, I'm telling you it is, because for the first time I see people who are from different backgrounds, different disciplines, different martial arts, and all of a sudden they've all come together and they're as one. There's no politics, there's no bullshit. It's people supporting each other for the good of martial arts. And he said, I've absolutely been thrilled by being here. And I walked away like the proverbial dog with 2 of them. Still going, oh my God, it's Terry O'Neill. Lovely man.
Fantastic.
So yeah, I hope that answered your question.
It very much does. Very much does. No, thank you for taking time.
And you thought Paulie could talk? Nothing. You got rusted. I'm just the fluffer for him.
I you know when I decided to do this, I thought I'll aim for about an hour for this podcast. Wow.
Yeah, well, we've just gone the second cup of coffee by then.
That's gone. That's well gone. I think we're probably at about 2 hours now, to be fair. But no, it's all good. It's all good. Hey, 2 hours of quality content. That's what we'll say. Cool. So earlier you mentioned as well that you were an author. So could you tell us a little bit about your book?
Well, there's 2 books out there. The first one is a really strange story. I woke up, as you know, Chris, I'm always busy. I'm always doing stuff. And I woke up one Sunday and we had nothing to do. It was a particularly overcast, rubbishy sort of day. And it was just like, bleh. So, and I was bored senseless. I was absolutely bored senseless. Strangely, the following Sunday, also not doing anything, woke up early, really early, thought, I'm not going to go through a boring day like that again. What can I do? What can I do to make... I'm going to write a book in a day, I decided. And I did. It's called The Tao of the Spiritual Warrior. And it was basically sort of little life lessons I've learned and quotes from films and stuff that sort of resonated with me that I use in my teaching. And it was really well received, but it was a fun thing. And to get a book in your hand is a really wonderful thing. It's like giving birth, I would guess, but quite not so much placenta, really. On the other side of the coin, you know, it was good to do, and I'm glad I did it, but it was still a cop-out. It was like I wanted to do something. It was pretty good. I know a lot of people enjoyed it. I certainly enjoyed it, but after the operation, and I think it actually struck me after going up to the martial arts show up in Darlington or what have you. And so many people have come up to me and talked about how my Facebook pages had really inspired people and what have you. And I thought it'd be really good to leave a legacy in a book. So I took the premise that I'm going to diarise it like I've done in Facebook, but then on the days that needed perhaps more expansion, I then write about it. And I started, and it was brilliant. It was a brilliant, wonderful experience. Then I got stuck. So a very dear friend of mine offered me a use of a caravan, a static caravan, on these mobile home things, up in the Welsh mountains, overlooking the beach, where oddly Top Gear used to go and do driving on the beach. Wow. So I'm in up a mountain, overlooking this beautiful thing, and it was wonderful. So I had a week up there writing, and I basically broke the back of the book then. And it's called Breaking Bob. It's about my journey with cancer. It starts off basically with an introduction leading into when I first got the news, and it finishes with me in the dressing room of Wilco Johnson, the famous guitarist who has become a really good friend, who also sadly suffered from cancer. And it's the story in between. And the first time I actually had it in my hand and then reread it, I thought, this is actually really good. And you know, I am quite self-critical, but I thought this works. And I think we've had about 56 or 58 reviews on Amazon. All of them have been 5-star. All of them have been really, really good reviews. But my favourite one, I was up going to a clinic in London, and I'm on the tube, and this lady is looking at me opposite, and she says, "Excuse me, are you Bob?" Well, the reason it's called Breaking Bob is because of Lord Flashheart and Bob, if you recall. Yes. And I said, no, madam, I'm not Bob. And I wasn't even thinking about, that anything to do with the book. And she said, "You are Bob." And I go, "No, I'm Anthony." She said, "Yes, you're Bob." Right. It's a bit like the trigger moment on Only Fools and Horses, with Dave. And she gets out her Kindle, and the book she was reading was mine.
Wow.
And that was just brilliant. I mean, it was just such a nice feeling that someone is actually reading it. And I know, most of my friends would have bought one, and people who knew me, out of maybe curiosity, but I think it actually it resonated with a lot of people. And unfortunately, today has been a quiet day, but over the course of a week, I may get 10 phone calls with people who've got cancer, and I'll try and help them where I can. And it's a good thing, and the book's helped an awful lot with that, because that's got my sort of message out that there are alternatives to chemotherapy. There are other things, and 2.5 years ago I was given 3.5 years ago I was given 6 months to live. I'm still here. A year ago I was given an updated prognosis. "Oh, you have a year to live." That's 18 months down the line, and I'm still here. And I've slowed up a little bit. I've had to adjust my life, but I'm still here, and it's a wonderful world, mate. And we try, and I see people just living their lives in an existence they don't live. And I realise that all the people I surround myself with, and you mentioned about Paulie talking earlier, all the people that in my life now are passionate people, and it doesn't matter what about. Paulie is so passionate about the autism thing, and rightly so. You're incredibly passionate about getting a good, positive message from martial arts out there, and with the kicking thing. I think it's brilliant. We've all got our passions, and it doesn't matter where those passions are coming from. There is an overlap because we just have an interest in bloody life, and I think it's really important. And I think that's where, when you have a terminal disease and you're told, it does make you live your life a little bit better.
Wow.
So
what an important message. Well,
I know.
I personally, I know I've said this to you personally before, yeah, but I will speak on behalf of the martial arts industry as a whole, and just say thank you for everything that you've done and continue to do.
Bless you, mate. Thank you.
It is amazing work that you do, and it does inspire. It inspires me, and I know it inspires thousands of others as well. And the award shows, especially the two highlights of my year every year. Really look forward to it, and it's created this big community, and it's then perhaps shouldn't say this, but it's one of those events where I don't worry about which table I'm going to end up sat on.
Yeah.
I don't care. I'll just turn up and sit wherever, and you're going to be sat with friends.
Yes. Isn't that lovely? 300 people there, and everyone mingles, everyone talks to each other, and it's brilliant, mate. And I looked out. I wasn't sure if I had the energy to do the whole of the comparing, because you're actually up and talking for about 6 hours. But I thought, no, if this is my last one, I want to do it, and I'll give it my best shot. Although, in fairness, Russ and Tony Bailey were on standby. If I didn't tell him he was on standby, apparently. But they were there in case I faltered, but I didn't. And it was wonderful to look out there. And there was one particular point where there was a lull in the proceedings. We had a little break just before, about 8 o'clock, I think. We'd had our food. Everybody sort of recharged their glasses for the major awards that were coming. And I just stood there for a minute or two, and I just watched. Everyone was engrossed in the conversation of their fellow people on their table. There was conversations, and I think, to sum it up, my old boss Darryl Clark and his mate Greg came along as my guests of honour. Greg and Russ have been Greg and Darryl have been good friends for probably near on 30 years, And I invited them up there because Daryl had been so kind in donating some equipment to try and help me fight the cancer. And it's always good to spend time with him anyway. So Greg sits me down, and he's got this really earnest look on his face, and he goes, I can't believe tonight. And I go, well, why? He said, there are some incredibly tough people here. You don't have to tell me. And there were some of the leading lights in British martial arts there. And he said, all I've seen tonight is love, respect, and courtesy. That's all I've seen. And it was true. When people were walking past chairs, it was always like, after you sort of thing. People were talking to each other. People were conversing. And when you said, you've been doing some stuff with Paulie, I thought, that's brilliant. That's exactly what I wanted to achieve with this. This sort of good people working together for the right reasons, and we all benefit. And it's done with courtesy and love. And that's what martial arts is about to me. And I think I said that at the dinner. Guru Dan Inosanto said, why do we do martial arts? We do it because of love. We do it for love of family. We do it for the love of friends. And most importantly, we do it for love of self. And I think that is perfectly true. And it's a great feeling to smack someone.
Well, on that note.
All this niceness, then I have to balance it off with my yang side. Mate, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Yep, I've got to shoot. I've got a bunch of kids stood outside the door looking at me now, ready to come in for class. So I better finish it there. But no, thank you very much for your time. I really do appreciate it.
Bless you, mate.
Thank you. So a big thanks to Tony and to all our guests that are featured in this week's episode. A big thanks to everybody out there for the support. Please continue to share and to spread the word about the Facebook group. And keep an eye out. Coming very soon, we're going to have our own website. So you'll have a central place to go and visit all things to do with this podcast and anything connected to it. So keep an eye out. Announcement will be coming very, very soon. And hope you all have a great weekend, and I'll catch you next week.